beginning and its end. Yes, Iran appears in the Bible Genesis to the prophecies of the end times, but under its ancient name, Persia. Because the Bible doesn't just tell us about Iran's beginning, it also foretells its ultimate destiny in one of the darkest and most feared passages in Revelation, the War of Gog and Magog, a coalition that will rise up against Israel in the last.
In the critical details, the results of the recent strike, the scope, trajectory of the conflict, the administration's long-term strategy to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons, potential risks facing American citizens and our service members who we all have an obligation to protect. To be abundantly clear, neither Pete Hegseth nor Marco Rubio was scheduled to attend this hearing. If Rubio and Hegseth want to come up, I don't think they'll be informing us of very much compared to the people who will be there today. But if they want to come up on Thursday in addition, not in replacement of this hearing, that's okay.
We're going to dive into this with retired Brigadier General John Tykert. He's a former fighter pilot and Pentagon official. General, good to see you. Thanks for coming on. Do you think this ceasefire holds, and do both sides have an incentive for it to hold?
Bill, clearly there was righteous anger by the president walking out to Marine Corps One as he left about any possible violations of the ceasefire. I think he sees, like we all should see, that in the last 2 weeks do we pursue regime change? Now, there's going to be guys like your fellow Senator Lindsey Graham who said quite openly the answer to that is yes, and there are others like President Trump who said, although he had that post on Sunday night, who said the answer is no. Our goal was to denuclearize them. Going to maintain peace. The question is, what does Israel want? Because do they want regime change forced from the streets? Although there's a lot of stuff I'm sure going on surreptitiously, but from the outside.
Well, suggesting that Israel's not going to attack Iran, and also saying later that Iran will never rebuild their nuclear facilities. The president coming here to the NATO summit, which is set to focus primarily on a boost in military spending by all members. This is an event that's attended by diplomats, leaders of the member nations, also a handful of lawmakers from these various countries. It becomes an opportunity for them to talk to each other. Remember, members of Congress today are getting a classified briefing from U.S. officials about what transpired over the weekend, and they hope to get some sense of what's next. We spoke earlier today with New Hampshire Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen, who's the top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and is here for the summit, about the situation in Iran. Take a listen.
I think the threat of Iran with a nuclear weapon is a huge concern. It's a concern for America. We know already. In fact, I just ran into one of our former elected officials who said he is still being stalked by Iran and is concerned because they have an effort to assassinate him. So we know the terrorist threat they presented across the Middle East with the Houthis and Hamas and Hezbollah. And it's been not just to Americans, but to people across the world. So yes, I think they have been a threat. Now, it remains to be seen what the next steps are, and President Trump has not been clear about what he hopes to happen next.
There is a classified briefing for senators today.
Yeah.
Obviously, you won't be there.
Too little, too late.
Is it?
I think it's late. It should have happened before he took this action.
Nangyari sana, tulog ng mga tao. Basa pa ang hook ko kasi, guys.
Supportive, generally, of what the president did by all accounts, destroying, if not setting back, the Iranian nuclear program. Just wants to know more about what's next and whether this means the U.S. is getting more deeply involved in the conflict or if it was a one-and-done situation. And then, of course, there's all the issues that NATO countries will be discussing here.
All right, Ed O'Keefe for us at The Hague, where it appears to be fairly windy, but at least you're not dealing with the 100-degree heat that we have here on the East Coast, Ed. We thank you, my friend.
The better weather today.
You did indeed. Appreciate you as always. All right, for more on the situation in the Middle East, I want to bring in my friend, CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd, who's joining us from Washington, D.C. Sam, you heard my conversation with Ed and with Holly earlier. The president has expressed frustration at both Israel and Iran. How do you think his comments are going to be viewed by both countries? There is some analysis out there that the President of the United States does respond, as most humans do, to flattery. And it feels almost as if he was using his social media to flatter the leaders of Iran and Israel in an attempt to appeal to their better angels. But I don't know that others operate in that fashion, especially when they are the stars of their own shows. In other words, what are in their national interest may not necessarily always be in our national interest, even if we're talking about an ally.
Well, I think it's unfortunate that the president used expletive-filled language when talking about our closest ally, Israel, and of course Iran and their behavior over the last 12 to 24 hours. At the same time, Vlad, I really don't think that Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Supreme Leader of Iran are as focused on what is being said publicly, social media, and the war of words that we're seeing transpire both on social media and in traditional media. Instead, as you mentioned, what is critical is what's happening behind the scenes, what's happening domestically for them and what's happening behind closed doors in Tehran, in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, and the private negotiations that are underway. We understand that this ceasefire came into effect after President Trump reportedly convinced the Israelis to accept it, and then asked the Emir of Qatar to convince Iran to accept the ceasefire as well. Qatar has positioned itself as a key mediator in a range of conflicts, including this Israel-Iran war, as well as negotiations between Israel and Hamas to end the war in Gaza after Hamas's terrorist attack against Israel on October 7th.
So it's interesting, Sam, if this ultimately, the president has indicated that these nuclear facilities were obliterated. There's been some back and forth from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff about how obliterated or what that definition looks like. But let's assume that the president, we give him the benefit of the doubt, and this slows or at least eliminates Iran's capabilities at building a nuclear weapon. And the reason I wonder if people are thinking about how good that might be for the region and the world, because I've seen some analysis, and you no doubt have seen it as well, which is that President Clinton back in 1994, during the first North Korean nuclear crisis, also considered striking North Korea before they built nuclear weapons. The South Koreans did not want that to happen, and now North Korea has nuclear weapons. So if it turns out that this worked, is that not a good thing?
It certainly is. A nuclear-armed Iran is a menace not just to the Middle East, but to the entire world. And the fact that Iran's nuclear program has, at the very least, been set back is a net positive, Vlad. And we should consider it as such. They were closer than they had ever been before to a nuclear weapon based upon their stockpiles of highly enriched uranium, as well as most likely knowledge about how to successfully weaponize, how to successfully build a bomb, target a facility or another country like Israel, and then actually implement it. So that is a net positive. However, it is worth noting that the battlefield assessment about the efficacy of these military strikes is going to take some time. It is likely going to be informed not just by satellite imagery, but by intelligence, U.S. and Israeli intelligence, human sources, signals intelligence, that lays out conversations between key officials in Iran about how much damage these strikes actually did, how many centrifuges were destroyed, how much enriched uranium, and importantly, how much intellectual capital. Nuclear scientists were assassinated, facilities destroyed, and we need to understand the intelligence assessment about what occurred. And that will take time, Vlad. That is not going to be an immediate conclusion that the intelligence community is able to gather. They have to work their sources.
And really quickly, Sam, before I let you go, because we're running out of time, but I've heard, I spoke to an analyst yesterday who primarily focuses on Iran, and he says that this strike will actually, in his words, he guarantees now that the Iranians will speed up the move towards nuclear weapons. What do you think?
Well, there's certainly differing analysis on that, but two things. The first is that the Iranian regime, responds best to maximum pressure. I was in the White House during the early days of the Iran nuclear negotiations, and Iran came to the table because of maximum economic pressure. In this scenario, they are under maximum military pressure and almost maximum economic pressure. There's some other economic levers that we could pull. So I do think there's a possibility that they are crippled enough to come back to the negotiating table versus trying to break out to a bomb.
All right, Samantha Vinograd, always with that brilliant analysis for us this morning. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you. You're listening guys to the news.
Hi there and welcome.
যে তুমি হয় নিজেদের সমস্ত এই যুদ্ধের ব্যাপারটা বন্ধ করো
I
এবং
don't understand.
নিউক্লিয়ার প্রোগ্রাম সব বন্ধ করো এবং আমাদের সাথে নিউক্লিয়ার চুক্তিতে এসো আমেরিকার টার্মস অনুসারে। তখনও ইরান বলেছিল যে আমরা এটাকে মানছি না, এবং এখনো ইরানের তরফ থেকে
But I think the point is their capability has been significantly
Hello
degraded.
everyone.
However, there is still a marginal threat because the real thing is that Iran cannot have a nuclear capability at all. They simply, they're a terrorist nation and they can't have that capability. So how far do you let them get? And I would suggest that they can have no nuclear capability that's not for civilian purposes, and none of this has ever been for civilian purposes.
I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Are you going to the agreement? It's a new dawn in the Middle East. Thanks to the agreement you managed to achieve. What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new dawn in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
Yeah.
The region is going to a new place with this agreement. Can you tell us what's your future plans for Gaza, for the hostages?
Yeah. It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
Thank you. I'm Maria Kraus from Israeli Channel 13 News.
Well, we have to have Israel calm down because they went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Did you get to speak with the Prime Minister? Did you talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I took everybody.
Both
sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire.
Side?
I think they both violated
Which
it.
side?
I don't think
Amir,
I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They
Salim?
couldn't rein people back. I
You're
don't like the
asking
fact
which
that
side?
Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay?
I just want peace for both sides.
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here
Whatever
is
will
because
happen,
those pilots, those
it's
B-2
really,
pilots did an unbelievable
it's
job.
really sad.
And you know, the fake news, like
because,
CNN in particular, they're trying
you know,
to, they're trying to say,
many
well,
people were dying,
I agree that it was
especially
destroyed,
kids,
but maybe not that destroyed.
children.
You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great
Children
pilots that put their lives
and,
on the line. CNN is
the
scuffed, and
parents,
so is
the
MSDNC.
old,
They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots; they're after me. They want to try and demean me. Iran from there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished, and you take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these
I need to
networks
be-
and these
I need
cable
to-
networks are
need
real
to be
losers.
safe.
You really are.
Safety
You're real
first,
losers.
and friends, prayers can help also.
You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people. And the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times.
Salim?
But the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you...
Really? What does it matter to gain everything or to gain the whole world? I mean, if you lose your soul, right? That's what I'm thinking. What does it matter if you have everything or to gain the whole world, and you will lose your soul, you know? So it's better to have peace, both sides in all over the world, and to better spread the love, and to stop the war. I think that's my opinion for this matter. I really need
Now you have 12
peace.
hours. You don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that.
Every day listening to this news.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
You had a response to Iran? All right, a very agitated U.S. president over there condemning not just Iran, but his steadfast ally Israel as well. He's in fact saying that he is more unhappy with Israel because he gave them 1 hour for the ceasefire, and it did not mean that Israel should have gone ahead and dropped all the bombs on Tehran. He's of course also gone on to indicate that Tehran's nuclear program has been done away with. He is of course very livid with leading news networks in the United States, calling them fake news. But more importantly, he has also warned Israel against launching further airstrikes against Tehran, calling it a major violation of the ceasefire. Do not drop these bombs. If you do, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home, is what Donald Trump's instructions were to Israel. At the same time, important to highlight that the U.S. president was departing from Washington for the NATO summit in The Hague. This is the joint base Andrews, where the U.S. president actually delivered those statements. Now, the U.S. president has also said that both Iran and Israel have violated the ceasefire. So a confirmation coming in with regards to all the confusion that was surrounding the ceasefire violation, because remember, both the countries were trading barbs at each other, blaming each other for being the first to violate that ceasefire. But the U.S. president officially putting it on record that both the countries, Iran and Israel included, have violated the ceasefire collectively. He's not happy with Iran either, but extremely unhappy with Israel, is what the U.S. president had to say. The timing is extremely significant, given that he's headed towards the NATO summit in the...
So when you purchase a property in Dubai, so Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, Abu Dhabi all have different rules. But in Dubai, that's where...
Who will be happy?
Summit is certainly going to assume new dimensions with a prolonged conflict in Ukraine, a second front in Gaza, and a third now opening up with Iran and Israel. Let's listen to what the U.S. President had to say yet again.
Dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers. You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people. And the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times. But the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with it. When I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Do you have a response to Iran?
They can have more democracy than they have now, not full liberalism because society is not ready for it.
Okay.
But I do believe that these 46 years did change them, and what they say now is that the next regime in Iran, the next government in Iran, might be actually good for the people because that's something that's never been tried in Iran.
Okay. We'll just go through exactly what's happening at this point in time. Qatar, the U.S. airbase in Qatar has come under attack. U.S. troops housed in Iraq have also come under attack, but no casualties so far. President Trump is in the Situation Room. We'll try getting an update from Rohit Sharma, our correspondent in Washington, D.C., as to what's happening on the ground. But this is a developing situation. It's a story that's unfolding right in front of us. Escalatory in nature. Iran certainly has sent out a very strong message. On the one hand, it could be seen as symbolic because Iran had to respond to an American action with Qatari government knowing in advance that there could be an action or an attack on the American base in Qatar. Most of the bases, US air bases in the region are on high alert and therefore either have been evacuated, especially when it comes to personnel. There could be damage of property and infrastructure. Again, an assessment will be done later. We will get to know details of what really happened at the Al Udeid Air Base in the in Qatar. Breaking news coming in. First statement from Qatar after the Iranian attack. Qatar government says it's a flagrant violation of our sovereignty. Right to respond in equivalent scale is what Qatar is saying. The statement also adds saying that the catastrophic consequences for international peace. This would mean that Qatar is considering this an attack on Qatar and not just on a particular US base. Qatar calls for immediate cessation of all military action
Qatar reserves the right to respond directly in a manner equivalent with the nature and scale of this brazen aggression in line with international law. The statement says, and I quote, "We emphasize that the continuation of such escalatory military actions will undermine security and stability in the region, dragging it into situations that could have catastrophic consequences for international peace and security." First statement coming in from Qatar, the land that has been violated by Iran as a response to the American action against nuclear facilities in Iran. The Iranian government had very clearly said that this is America entering the fray, so the response cannot be confined to Israel alone. We spoke earlier to a journalist, and we will try putting out some of the statements that she made. She said very clearly from Tehran that the response will be against U.S. military bases in the region. Harold Roth, a retired officer of the United States of America, Middle East expert, served in the State Department, joins me for more on this. Mr. Roth, thank you so much for joining us. The fact that we are looking at a response despite and in spite of the statement made by President Trump clearly suggests that Iran is on an escalatory mode. This is not Iran standing down. This is not Iran trying to find a way back to the negotiating table. This is Iran messaging to America that you've entered the fray, now you suffer the consequences.
Iran has undermined the United States from February 12, 1979. It says death to America. If you look at when the Ayatollah Khomeini made speeches, he had a sign behind him in Persian which said there is not a damn thing that America can do. Well, they have been provoking us and provoking us and provoking us and doing, and their nuclear program was going to upset the entire power balance of the Middle East. Standing down when you're about to be destroyed, which is what the goal is of the Iranian regime, both for the United States and for Israel and for Western Europe. And I would say also, remember, India is largely a Hindu country. And Hindus are also, and it's a land that used to belong to Islam. And from a Muslim point of view, once territory is Muslim, it belongs to the Islamic world forever. Do you in India want a nuclear Iran beside you that it says in its constitution it wants to bring Islamic rule first to the entire Muslim world and then for the entire world? And that would include India.
Right. Harold, focusing on what has happened right now, the statement that has come from the Iranian government, the National Security Council, says that there are 6 missiles that were launched on Iran, and so a similar number of missiles have been launched on the U.S. base. So the same number, but also reiterating that it is not Qatar that they were attacking; it is the American base.
It doesn't matter numbers. This idea of proportional response is never how war is fought. If you are going to either whether it's defense or offense, you give everything you can to make sure that the other side loses. In the case of the United States, it doesn't want to fight anybody. It wants everybody to get along. But who is disturbing this? It is Iran with its nuclear program. And if it got nuclear weapons, the entire area, the entire world would be a failure. Now, it's as if a patient has cancer. And you say, well, I'm fine. I feel okay today. I'm not going to the doctor. You put it off, the cancer grows, and the problem is worse. That is what America faces right now. It is time for once and for all to take care of the Iranian nuclear program. And from my point of view, and I don't work for the American government. I don't work for any government right now. But if Iran is going to try to provoke America, which is what happened here, there is no choice and thank God for President Trump. He will defend the interests of the United States, America, and the free world, which includes India.
Harold, just stay on with us. There's some more breaking news coming in. Now, news that's coming in is from Iraq. Missiles have been launched at base housing of the U.S. troops in Iraq. Security officials now are saying that after Qatar, the U.S. airbase that was attacked in Qatar, now the base in Iraq, which houses U.S. troops, has been attacked. Now, this is serious because it is not just infrastructure. We are talking about people. Whether if they have been impacted or affected or not is something we'll have to wait for an official confirmation. Adrian Calamel, terrorism and Middle Eastern expert and scholar, joins us also on the broadcast. Adrian, if I could come to you, Harold is with us. But this is big. After the airbase, we are looking at U.S. troops now coming under attack. This is huge, and this is a massive escalation by Iran.
Thank you for having me. You could say it's an escalation. Yeah, it is going after the United States bases. I think most of us kind of expected this. This is what they did after we killed Qasem Soleimani. They went after one of our bases in Iraq, and that's exactly what they're doing now. With the attack on Al-Assad base in Qatar, yeah, that's a direct message to our Navy. So I think a response is, and remember, Khamenei understands response, he understands threats, and when they're carried out, then he backs down. He's working with a diminishing supply of ballistic missiles and capabilities. Doesn't have a true army, doesn't have an air force, and my move would be to take out his entire navy, whatever that consists of. A couple boats, frigates, or whatever they may be, any spy stations, listening boats, trawlers designed to look like fishing trawlers, but have listening stations targeting ships up and down the Red Sea and in the Persian Gulf. I would take out all the bog hammers, the swift boats that they use with 50 caliber machine guns and rockets. Khamenei understands force. For me, when I see this as the death pangs of a regime in collapse, and he continues to miscalculate. He did that on October 7th and has continued to miscalculate since. He went for the direct attack on American forces, and now he's going to feel the response, and it's not going to be good. So his escalation ability is very limited. Ours, on the other hand, Khamenei's got to be wondering when he's finally going to be taken out.
Right, Adrian, define limited over here. You've been saying limited, but how long can Iran sustain this war, and should they be able to breach Israel in a bigger way, how long can then Israel sustain this war? So